not a not football discussion, but it's just not something I bet you were expecting. What is your
Probably not.
experience with NFL Street, the video game, when you were younger?
I absolutely loved that game.
Oh,
Hell yeah. I last year, or no, not last year. In 2020, I broke out the PS2 when the world was shut down and played a lot of NFL Street. And this reference will only land with some, but it was a lot of NFL Street and Kart Fury, the arcade game.
don't know Kart Fury, but I do know NFL Street, which is something we actually still play to this day because I have the first version of the Wii and you can play GameCube games on that. So I have NFL Street on GameCube, and we still play it. Like my friends and I, we still break it out. You know, come over for Red Zone Sunday, and it's like, all right, well, let's sneak in a game of Street or two before the game starts, and we still play it. So it is something that's been near and dear to my heart for a long time. But I just wanted to roll through some of the rosters
I was
for
gonna say, who's the goat in that game?
if you're not counting the legends, it's Randy Moss.
Okay.
Randy Moss is a problem on offense and defense. But I mean, Mike Vick's really good. Donovan McNabb is really good. Champ Bailey is insane. All right, so you ready for those who don't know the NFL Streets? I think it's based off the '03 season. So the Bears lineup is Marty Booker, Mike Brown, Warwick Holdman, Olin Kreutz, R.W. McCorders, Cordell Stewart for the excuse me for the 1 year that he played with the Bears, David Terrell, A Train Anthony Thomas, Keith Traylor, Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher, and Des White. There is maybe three of those guys I would say hold a special place in my heart. Obviously, Urlacher, Olin Kreutz, and Mike Brown. The others I could take or leave. Keith Traylor, I guess, for the lull, but he was okay. Now it's time for the Green Bay Packers, led by the great Brett Favre. So we got Nile Diggs, Donald Driver, Brett Favre, Bubba Franks, KGB, Ahmad Green, William Henderson, one of the few fullbacks in the game, Cletus Hunt, Joe Johnson, Mike McKenzie, Darren Sharper, and Javon Walker. I think the Bears appropriately suck in street. They weren't a very good team that year. Packers actually aren't the worst team to play with on the game. Any of those
No.
hold a certain affinity to you?
Well, I think anyone that knows me knows that KGB is like my all-time favorite Packer, just because growing up I played defensive end in my youth days, so I always looked up to him, and he was just awesome. He was such a like physical specimen. Um, Otherwise, for no other reason than I loved his dreads, Mike McKenzie. It's really funny you brought this up. I was just thinking this weekend that the next random jersey I want to buy is a Mike McKenzie jersey.
And then I could buy a Matt
Um,
Hasselbeck jersey.
yeah. Well, that was Al Harris that had that interception. Very
Damn
similar.
it.
Yeah, very similar looks though. And then Al Harris was the one who was quoted saying, "I came out the womb bumping and running," when they asked him about playing bump and run coverage on, I don't remember who it was. And then I also have to say William Henderson, because I used to go to his football camp when I was a kid, and like you said, he's one of the few fullbacks in the game.
Yeah, fullbacks are kind of useless in the game. I also don't really draft offensive linemen in the game because why would you? It's all about speed and power.
Yeah, that's where like the safeties were always good because they were usually fast. They could catch, they could tackle,
All
and
right.
like you
Well,
said, power.
coming soon to our social medias will be our top 10 list of NFL street players, not counting the legends. So I listed four of my goats. If you had like the all pickup game or whatever, who would be your first three picks?
Champ Bailey. Let me see. I'm kind of flipping through some of these rosters right now. Ooh, he- I think he was Marshall Falk.
Really? He's actually a sneaky good quarterback.
He was pretty good. I get 3, you said?
Yeah.
After that, it's probably Randy Moss.
Say no Randy ratio for you.
No.
I would take Ricky
Ooh,
Williams.
actually,
over Marshall
I don't
Faulk.
know. I would yeah, Ricky Williams is a good one, but another fun one was Brian Dawkins in that game.
Because he could tackle and run and catch
Yes,
and cover.
he was incredible in that game.
Yeah, sometimes I actually pick a player like Rodney Harrison to be my linebacker instead of a linebacker because that dude could just hit.
I'm sure you also played backyard football on the computer.
Backyard baseball was the go-to.
Yeah. Yeah. Pablo Sanchez, the goat of all goats in video games.
Was he the goat? I didn't play much football. Was he the goat in football too?
Oh my gosh. He was incredible.
Keisha Phillips, Pete Wheeler. Was there some like Dobbs person?
I forgot about Pete Wheeler. Yeah, Pete Wheeler was another one.
Did I do that? God, we're old.
I think we got to break these out sometime and
Oh yeah. Next time I come over, do you have a TV that has the red, white, and yellow back?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Then
It's
I'll
the
bring
one that's in the
Wii and
guest
play some
bedroom.
Street. I will wax you at it though. I'm just gonna let you know right now.
That's fine.
You can
practice
rinse
a
me in
little bit.
Madden all you want. I'll take you in Street. But
We'll see about that.
I was just about to say something. I forgot.
Okay, so hold on. In today's NFL,
Yeah. That's what I was just about to say. Why? So you know that on the Xbox side, Xbox Game Pass just came out with GoldenEye, the old James Bond game, but they kept it like as they've updated and fine-tuned a lot of the things so it works, but they kept like all the kind of shitty graphics and whatever because that's the nostalgia feel of the old game. Why? How much money do I have to earn in my life to pay somebody to make NFL Street for like next gen consoles, update the rosters, but then like keep all the quirky things that make NFL Street fun, like the fact that you can pitch the ball 6 times in a play and one of them drops and you have 10 guys around the ball and nobody can pick it up. Like I want the game to be the same. I just want the rosters to be updated. Who do I have to pay to do that?
Not motorsports games.
Too soon. We're never getting an IndyCar game.
Okay, I have my pick in my mind, but who would your one of one pick be in NFL Street 2023? I think it's an easy answer. I think it's too easy.
No, because I think our draft alignment's a little different. I would say, offensive, Derrick Henry. Ain't no one tackling him. Could you imagine a 6'3", 260-pound Derrick Henry in the street?
Because they also had to play two ways, remember? So
exactly.
He'd probably also be really good at tackling. I was going to say Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he would be the new Vic or Justin Fields. Justin Fields
Lamar's got
a lot of speed.
Yeah. I feel like Lamar would be a better tackler. I feel like they would give him.
I could see Jalen Ramsey being a really good two-way player too.
Mm-hmm.
Tackle and receiver.
I'm sure Tyreek would just be unstoppable speed-wise once you got him.
That would be. We should find comparables. Like Tyreek Hill would be Dante Hall.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson would be Vic. Jalen Ramsey would be not quite like Brian Dawkins, but probably pretty close.
Maybe like a Champ Bailey.
Yeah, with maybe a little better tackling.
Justin Jefferson would probably be like Randy Moss.
Yeah, Jamar Chase would be Isaac Bruce.
Devontae would be like T.O.
Yeah, a little better probably. Patrick Mahomes
NFL
would just be like Dante Culpepper, except better.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun. Wouldn't that be fun?
I'm sure. Oh, you know who else would probably be really good? Travis Kelce and Kittle. They'd probably be untackleable.
Yeah, they would need to make tight ends better. Because tight ends, Anthony Gonzalez was borderline unstoppable in that era, and he's pretty worthless in street. So, I think we're going to come out with our top 10 players that we would pick in Street and publish those soon. So just keep
And then
an
I
eye
think
out for
shortly
that.
after we should do our top 10 current day who would make a
Best Street players out of
yeah.
current crop.
Yep.
Aaron Donald. Oh,
NFL Street Fantasy Draft 2023.
Aaron Donald, Fred Warner. They would be really good. Fred Warner would be like Derek Brooks. So, well, speaking of Fred Warner, we can start with the 49ers game. It was on paper going to be a really good game, right? Two of the best teams in the NFC. I think we could all agree they were the two best teams in the NFC. First series of the game for the 49ers, Brock Purdy picks up an elbow injury, and they basically, Josh Johnson comes in, fourth string quarterback, wasn't built for the moment. It's not his fault. He wasn't supposed to be there. And then he gets hurt, and they literally have a quarterback. They have a quarterback who cannot throw the ball probably 4+ yards down the field. So they are stuck running the ball for the rest of the game. And it's like, wow, this is disappointing. Like, I feel like we were all robbed of a good game.
The worst part was last week I said it was one of the more disappointing divisional weekends, and then we were just left with that stinker of a game to start Sunday. I felt like it was – I saw this on Twitter in a few spots, but it felt like the football gods basically like laughing at all of us, saying like, oh, you think anyone can play quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's offense? Or, oh, Kyle Shanahan loves to run the football. Let's just make him run the football all day and see how that works.
Yeah. I could be wrong. I still liked the Eagles' chances. I think whether Purdy goes out or not, I still think the Eagles are going to win that game. Mainly because that front seven for the Eagles is terrifying. Hassan Reddick is a game wrecker.
Yeah, they looked that was probably the scare. I know they had like 23 sacks over 3 games at one point this season, but I felt like that was the scariest they've looked in a game that I got to watch start to finish.
Yeah, so I think we were obviously robbed of knowing the outcome, but I still like the Eagles' chances. Now, credit to the 49ers defense. For the majority of the game, they stood their ground. You know, there's not a whole lot you can do, and the time of possession is pretty skewed, and your offense can't move the ball, but they stood in and did their best. The Trent Williams thing I thought was pretty funny. He body slammed a guy who wouldn't get off a 49er player, and then he and that player got ejected.
And then the best part of that was the video of him smacking Richard Sherman resurfaced from when he was a Washington commander / football player / Redskin.
Yeah, he don't play around.
No.
He's not. He doesn't seem like a particularly pleasant person to annoy, because I feel like he will not be afraid to punch you in the face. So, yeah, that was kind of funny. I think it's a little funnier for me that the Eagles won because being surrounded by Vikings fans 24/7, a lot of them hate the Eagles, mainly because of the NFC Championship game from a couple years ago, and the treatment of Vikings fans at that game was not. They all got the Philly treatment, we'll say. But I don't know. I don't mind the Eagles winning. I don't mind if they win the Super Bowl. I think it could be kind of funny.
You're going to hate that I think this, but I'd rather the Chiefs win than the Eagles.
All right, well, we got our picks set then.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
I am not cheering for Mahomes. I just won't. I actually took it upon myself to learn the lyrics to Fly, Eagles Fly this morning so I can get drunk and annoyingly sing it at the Super Bowl party.
I'm glad I'm not watching it with you.
I think you're going to count yourself lucky, probably.
Yeah, I already am.
So, but it's actually a really easy song. Do you want me to sing it? No. We'll say that. We'll save that for some beers later on. Fly. So I'm excited to watch the Eagles. I think they're a really good team, and if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of in like a mini cap hell this year, and the fact that they even are in contention with such a well-built roster is insane. They got a rookie QB deal, obviously. They got Devontae Smith on a rookie deal. They have James Bradbury on a 1-year deal. They have a couple other. They brought in like Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. The structure of this team is something that should be heavily appreciated by everybody, really. The way they built this team is insane, and they deserve a lot of credit.
And as cringy as he is, I guess shout out Nick Sirianni when you're winning, it doesn't matter how cringy you are.
He's a bit much, but hey, if it works, it works. I'm trying to pull up the payrolls right now because I want to say.
All I know is that A.J. Brown's got a $100 million contract.
Okay, so as far as active cap spending, the Eagles are 23rd in the NFL in active spending at $198 million. The Bills are at 245. The leaders are the Buccaneers, which is funny, at 281 million. Not sure how that works. Bills are at, this is all from overthecap.com. The Bills are at 245 million. The Packers at 242 million. The Chiefs at 209, so that's good for them. 49ers 206. So the moral of the story is the Bengals 182. I think they're playing the long game because they're going to have to play Burrow here very soon.
And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Yeah. Bears at 115 million. How did they ever lose all these games this year? It's insane. The Packers literally spent $130 more million on them in active payroll.
Well, in fairness, 60% of that was spent on one player.
Well, don't worry. We have a portion of the episode devoted to that. That's fine. I bet you're really excited to talk about him.
I'll talk about it when I'm not going to suck up this air.
More of the story, good on the Eagles. I'm really excited to watch them. Any final thoughts before we move out of that game into the next game?
So the only thing I took away from it, obviously NFL officiating was a big topic for the second game, but when they thought that the ball may have hit the wire that the camera was on, why didn't they just replay the footage from that camera to see if the camera shook?
Do you think Fox would ever admit fault to something?
I feel like that's not Fox's fault because I think the wires are pretty much the same for all the different broadcasts.
Yeah, but somehow I get back to be blaming Fox because that's just the American way.
They're also the ones who dropped a camera on Charlotte Motor Speedway during a NASCAR race, so that's fair. That checks out.
So yeah, there was a couple. That was the one that I've never seen before.
I'll also just add that was just like one of the most uncomfortable, just weird NFC Championship games, any conference championship game I can remember. Like it was just such a disjointed, weird. Like the game just had weird vibes. I don't know. I just like wanted to turn it off in the fourth quarter. I don't know.
I think both officiating crews should have been nowhere near either game, to be honest. And Carl Sheffers is doing the Super Bowl, which doesn't exactly give me the warm and fuzzies either. So
no. I guess one last thing is I'm really curious to see where this leaves the 49ers now, quarterback-wise.
Oh, yeah. So what do you think? So I'm of the personal opinion that I think they're going to be looking to trade Trey Lance this offseason, or at least they should be.
I think they have to because even though the season ended this way, it wasn't Brock Purdy's fault. You know what I mean? So you can't really point to anything and say he cost us the season. You know, he threw a back-breaking interception or had a terrible game and, when the lights were the brightest. Not that I think he was going to have the best game of his career, but I don't know. I feel like you kind of got to ride that hot hand.
Yeah, obviously it sucks not to make the Super Bowl, but I think the best thing that happened to the 49ers is that Brock Purdy didn't lay an egg because now they can at least roll into next season with confidence and he can continue to build on all the things that he did well. And you can try to offload a Trey Lance to like a Jets or a Green Bay or somebody who's going to be needing a backup quarterback soon to see if he can make it somewhere else. Because if this has taught us anything, we get reminded every year that the backup quarterback position is a very important one. And fingers crossed, you never need to rely on them. But when you do, you need to make sure that they can carry the team per se. So
one last thing. Sorry, I keep thinking of things. But do you remember back in the day when you could have a third backup quarterback designated and that's no longer a thing?
You can't have 3 active QBs on your roster?
There used to be some, I should find it. Brady Quinn tweeted something about it, about like the third quarterback designation and how beneficial that would have been in this case. And it was just one of those things like ever since most teams have trimmed back to three quarterbacks, it's never been an issue. Or, sorry, trimmed back to two quarterbacks, it had never been an issue. But of course, then in the second biggest game of a team season, or potentially a team season, it finally comes to fruition.
He tweeted, if the NFL hadn't gotten rid of the third QB designation, we wouldn't be having this problem. Apparently, it wasn't worth it to the NFLPA. So you can't dress three quarterbacks in a game?
I believe that's the case.
That's insane. What is that? Is that just purely for the sake of giving a roster spot to somebody else, you think?
Yeah, that was probably some negotiation with the PA, and this is just purely speculation, but it was probably the NFLPA wanted to save roster spots, like you said, for skill positions, and the argument was probably, hey, a third-string linebacker or a third-string DB is more necessary because you can play them, in special teams and or in nickel and dime situations or, what have you.
Interesting. So there we go. Another thing to address in the offseason maybe. Because, you get to – or maybe even just hey, once you get to the playoffs, you can have three QBs. Because nobody wants to watch Christian McCaffrey play quarterback if it came to it. Or
it's kind of like Major League Baseball where they get the expanded roster for the postseason.
Yeah, or, if you truly get, Brock Purdy injured first series of the game, Josh Johnson gets a concussion and they don't have a quarterback, they might as well just forfeit at that point. If you're down more than one score – you're not going to win that game, barring the Eagles' offense throwing it away. So I think that's potential. I mean, with the overtime thing last year, I think they did a good job of addressing it swiftly and immediately, and I think this would be another one where they could I don't want teams to get all abusive about it or whatever, or, sign Odell Beckham off the street and then designate him as a quarterback and get him out there and playing whatever. So I think there need to be some guidelines to it that need to be adhered to, but I think that should be looked at for sure. So
yeah, you sent the Vietnam flashback picture, but I'm sure 49ers fans are feeling a lot like Bears fans during the NFC Championship game. Like, your quarterback's hurt enough that they can't play, but all they can do is stand there on the sidelines is watch. Like, that's not that you want to see a guy get his a bad tear or a bad break or anything, but I'm sure that's even harder on a quarterback when they're like, man, I'm here and I can't do anything. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, I'll take Brock Purdy's word for it that he couldn't throw the ball. I mean, he tried. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And the thing with that injury, too, is that we had, visual proof of what happened. I still, to this day, do not know what happened to Jay Cutler in the NFC Championship game. And preface that by saying I think Jay Cutler was, one of the toughest Chicago Bears that I've seen in a long time. That dude could take pain, no doubt. So I'm not doubting Jay. I'm just doubting, the information. I still don't know what happened. So I got flashbacks to Caleb Haney.
I did have to correct your text though, because Caleb Haney wasn't the first quarterback to come in. It was Todd Collins.
It was Todd Collins, who went 1 of 9 or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Anyways, moving on.
Hey, at least we had 3 quarterbacks to use that game.
Yeah.
The Bengals Chiefs game was a really good football game, barring the ridiculous officiating decisions that we saw. I have never seen an official attempt to blow a play dead in the middle of the play, keeping in mind that the Chiefs were on offense, so it's not like every fan was screaming at the top of their lungs when the away offense is on the field. So the Chiefs are on offense, and this official couldn't correctly stop the play in the middle of the play. He started waving his arms and stepping into the field of play, but then as the play was rolling along, he just kind of stopped and conceded and just let the play out. If you can't stop the play with a whistle or with your actions, then there needs to be a system to stop the play, because the fact that the Bengals stopped the Chiefs on 3rd down only to have the refs say, we're going to do a redo because the play clock, blah, blah, blah. And then Eli Apple gets a holding penalty and the Chiefs get an automatic 1st down. That was laughably terrible officiating. They missed at least 3 pivotal holding calls in the Chiefs. They missed an illegal block in the back on the punt return from the Chiefs. I am not a conspiracy theorist, but it definitely seemed like there was some one-sided calls in that game in favor of the Chiefs.
Yeah, this is prime time now for Bengals fans to not only be sad, but then over the next 7 to 10 days, just get increasingly infuriated with the NFL officials. That's the most fun time to be a fan because you can scapegoat your team's loss and put it on somebody else.
And it's not easy to be an official. It's a tough job. There's a lot, especially in those situations. There's a lot of pressure on them. I I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but there's things like missing a holding penalty, which can be frustrating, and then there's things like I forgot to know how to stop the play in the middle of the play, and we have to redo it. Which again, I've just never seen that before. So I am fully in sympathy with Bengals fans about the terrible officiating, but it happens. I guess it happens to every team eventually, right? It just when it happens and how it happens is varying degrees of pain.
I talked about the football gods for the first game, but I think this was also the football gods' way of punishing them, specifically Eli Apple, for just being uncorked for the entire week leading up to the game.
What did you make of the sheer amount of nonsense that we had going into this game? Whether it was Arrowhead is now called Burrowhead, the Cincinnati Mayor says that Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes' father, Eli Apple having a Twitter account. What did you make of everything?
The only one I took any sort of issue with was Eli Apple, just because why do you got to bring Damar Hamlin into it like that when he started like chirping the Bills and saying like, "Oh, go into Cancun with 3" or something like that. Um, like that was unnecessary. But Eli Apple is just, I mean, he got torched in the Super Bowl last year, and he's fine. He's not terrible, but he's not great. He's like Jair Alexander if Jair Alexander was average to below average at his position.
Yeah, and Jalen Ramsey's like Jair Alexander if Jalen Ramsey was not as talented.
Yeah.
I can't. Sorry, I have to take swipes at Jair when I can. If he gets mentioned in this podcast, I will slander. No, Eli Apple should have his. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say he should have his Twitter taken away, but
No.
I think people shouldn't put as much effort into caring what he has to say.
Yeah, the rest of the stuff I didn't really care about. The rest was just like banter leading up to the game. And
Although
kind
I
of
think it's
rivals.
kind of funny, like with the Chiefs, like after the game, they kept referencing everything that was said, and it's like you guys actually pay attention to that shit during the week.
Of course they do. I mean, the Bengals did the same thing before the Bills game. And let's face it, in the last how many years, 5 years they've had the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead. Outside of when Tom Brady comes to town, throughout the entire season, the Chiefs were the team to beat. Chiefs were the team to beat. It was always Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And the Bengals were always I don't know, do they really belong here? They're underdogs, their whole Super Bowl run last year, but then they walk all over the Bills, and all of a sudden they're the team to beat after, I don't want to say after one game, because again, they backed it up with 2 seasons, but the turntables had immediately flipped, and I think that resonates with teams in the locker room when it's like, no, 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 no. We're the bad guy. We're Kansas City. We're the big scary monster that no one wants to come play, and we need to make people remember that.
Yeah, and then there was the offensive lineman for the Chiefs, who Mahomes was talking to CBS, like came up to the mic and starts like shouting, "Show this man some respect." It's like, well, guy's literally going to win the MVP award this year, so I don't know how much more respect you want for this man. I mean, he
I
makes
think
it
that
sound
was probably I think that was in reference to like everyone saying Joe Burrow was greater than Patrick Mahomes because he was 3-0 against him.
which is like even if people say that, like you're still Patrick Mahomes, right? Like I don't think you have to go out there and establish your legacy more than I mean, he's already going to be more than likely in the Hall of Fame if he, plays let's say 3 more years. I think you could probably punch his ticket to the Hall of Fame.
I think if he retired today, he'd make it to the Hall of Fame.
Probably. I don't know if it'd be first ballot, but he'd probably make it. But so
Yeah.
that's like who I know it's probably frustrating for some to be like, "Oh, you're saying Joe Burrow's better than Patrick Mahomes? How dare you?" But at the same time, it's like Patrick Mahomes doesn't really need to prove anything to anybody. Like he's already done it, so he's already got enough respect, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So that's fine. The Asai play at the end though is pretty tough to watch. kind of feel for him. I mean, it was a stupid play, but at the same time, like, he's a human. It happens. Nobody should be shoving any player that's running out of bounds and in the white, let alone the quarterback. So they're going to flag that every time. So that was a tough one to watch.
It was the right call, but as Bears legend Adrian Amos tweeted yesterday, he said, not saying it's a terrible call because, yes, he was out, but I just don't like it. You think you can run full speed knowing that he's running out of bounds when every yard counts and just stop on a dime. That ain't as easy as you think. So that's like I get he made contact with him when he was out of bounds, and that in itself, like, you can't do. But it's tough. And it just sucks, like, that's the play that was the difference, like a penalty of all things. And I get that's disciplined football, and that's knowing, the down distance situation, all that stuff. But, I mean, that's some like Brandon Bostic type, like, nightmares he's going to have now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the call. It's just such a frustrating one. I think the annoying part about that whole play is you want to say maybe like 95% of the time, if you see a player with the ball running into the white and they get shoved, they get shoved and they go to the ground, there's going to be a flag of some capacity. What we didn't need is the Oscar-worthy performance from Patrick Mahomes in the back end of that to flail, flop, and throw your arms in the air to also ask for a flag, because you were going to get one anyways. So those, again, are just the minor, tiny nuances of why Patrick Mahomes drives me insane and why I just can't stand him as not as an athlete, but as kind of a competitive person. I just cannot stand him. So neither here nor there. That's why I've already established full-on Eagles fan for the next 2 weeks. Fly, Eagles, fly. We got this, right? Something like that. Also, good. I also don't mind cheering for the NFC if it's a team I don't despise. So basically anybody but the Packers or Vikings. I would root for the Lions if they made the Super Bowl, just because, as long as it's not in a part of like a dynasty where they're on their like 5th in a row or something. I wouldn't mind seeing the Lions win a Super Bowl once. That'd be kind of fun. So yeah, there we are. We have a Super Bowl matchup now. Chiefs at Eagles. I just want to say that we were horrendously wrong in our preseason predictions. I think I had Bills Bucks and you had Bills Bucks.
I think
because you said you were going to pick the Buccaneers. I think you said you were going to pick the Buccaneers just to be different.
Yeah.
Because I had said Bills. Let me pull it up here.
Always receipts. Always receipts.
Our final four was...
I already know. I think mine was probably Bengals, Bills.
Your final four was Packers at Bucks and Bills at Chiefs. And then you had Bucks, Bills in the Super Bowl, and you had the Bucks winning. I had Cowboys at Bucks, Bills at Chiefs, and then I had Bucks, Bills with the Bills winning. So we got the Chiefs right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can I talk about one other thing really quick?
Yeah.
Why the hell did the Empire State Building light itself up in Philadelphia Eagle green? Could you imagine, like, the Sears Tower being lit up in purple and gold or green and gold if the Packers made it to the Super Bowl? Or I'm thinking, like, there's a big bridge in Green Bay that has lights that shine on it, like that getting lit up in blue and orange or purple and gold. Like, it never in a million years would that happen.
Can we appreciate that the Twitter account for the Empire State Building took the effort to clap back at one person, and it was Dave Portnoy?
Really?
Yeah.
That's
clapped
funny.
back at one person. It was Dave Portnoy, which is hilarious. So
Got to get the cloud up. That's why.
It was wild. It was a disgrace. If Chicago ever did that, I would be furious. I don't think Chicago ever would, though. I think the people of Chicago would join together to reject that.
That tells me that, like, the building manager is an Eagles fan or something.
Yeah, or it was probably just photoshopped to a different time that it was also green or something. But I think it's wild. I do owe an apology
No,
though to the Tennessee
hold on.
Titans.
They then posted a picture of it lit up in red, and it said now lit for the Chiefs. But the photo was posted 15 hours ago, and it looks like it's during a sunset. So definitely not a current photo.
I think they're just chasing clout. But I do owe an apology to the Tennessee Titans. Remember like a week or two ago where I was laughing my ass off that the Titans were attempting to interview Eric Bieniemy for their offensive coordinator position?
Mm-hmm.
Two other teams have made such a request, one of them being the Commanders. I can't remember who the other one is. If more than one team is requesting to interview an offensive coordinator, my gut tells me that the offensive coordinator in question is probably okay with that and wanting that discourse to happen. Therefore, is Eric Bieniemy about to coach his last game as a Kansas City Chief?
Depends how good the offer is and who's going to play quarterback for him.
Because my understanding, based on what I see in the sidelines, is that Andy Reid has a play calling sheet and is communicating. And I don't know, he's probably communicating directly with Eric, but how much say does Andy Reid have in what's going on right now? And do you think maybe Bieniemy wants complete autonomy in whatever offense he calls and to go prove himself somewhere else? Because he'll be coming up to year 3 of like potentially getting head coaching interviews and not getting a head coaching position, and one has to wonder why that is.
Yeah, I feel like if you were to ask any offensive coordinator that's been in that position for a number of years, the ultimate goal is to become an NFL head coach.
Man,
You know what I mean? Like I think that's just the natural path that these people take.
right.
So I don't really read into it too much other than it's a major promotion and responsibility and pay and ability to change the direction of a franchise ultimately.
I know 2 first-round picks have been floated around from multiple people this week, but would you trade 2 first-round picks to acquire the rights to hire Sean Payton?
No.
It doesn't seem like a wise investment for any team to do that.
No.
Do you think the Saints would ever back down from that asking price?
No.
Then I don't really see. I mean, if you're, let's say, the Cardinals, do you really trade 2 first-round picks to hire this guy? I just don't know if that's going to be I don't think that's what's missing to get you over the hump. Like, I know Cliff Kingsbury sucked, but man.
So the Patriots got Bill Belichick for a 4th and a 5th round pick from the Jets,
What did John Gruden go for?
2 first round picks and a and 2 second round picks plus the 8 million to the Raiders in exchange. So the Raiders got a haul for him.
They probably used it very efficiently and wisely, right?
Yeah. Mike Holmgren traded to the Seahawks from the Packers. A 2nd round pick.
Did
Plus
you
they
have a
gave
coaching
him.
between him and McCarthy, or was it straight to McCarthy?
Oh, we had 2 coaches between him and McCarthy.
They just get bodied, or what?
We had Ray Rhodes for 1 season, and then we had Mike Sherman for a couple seasons.
Mike Sherman? I didn't know that.
Yeah. His daughter was roommates with my cousin, and I sat in the Mike Sherman family seats after he was let go. For 2 years after his firing, they still had tickets at Lambeau.
Wouldn't that be insulting? Like, hey, you can come back and watch the team that fired your dad.
Yeah. The Chiefs traded for Herm Edwards, the 4th round pick to the
Ugh.
Jets, and then went 15 and 33.
Yeah, but that's just, I mean, imagine you're Sean Payton. I mean, like, you signed the contract or whatever, but like, you're getting traded to a team that's now going to be deprived of 2 first-round picks. That would suck.
I mean, you look at all the ones I just listed. Another one was Parcells getting traded. And then Don Shula in 1970 from the Colts to the Dolphins. So, like, okay, Don Shula, you could argue, is a great one. But, like, how many of these really worked out well?
Shula, Gruden.
Okay, but so here's the thing with
Maybe
John Gruden.
Holmgren.
Here's the thing with John Gruden. Yeah, maybe Holmgren. But, like, the thing with John Gruden is, okay, he replaced Tony Dungy, right? And he was an offensive. Everyone talks about Gruden, like the Gruden quarterback room, the Gruden this, the Gruden that. But like, what won the Buccaneers that Super Bowl? It was the defense built by Tony Dungy. So like, was John Gruden really the missing ingredient? and then he was out of Tampa Bay, 2 years later?
Something like that.
So, again, they
And
won a
obviously,
Super
like
Bowl, so it's hard to
Belichick.
argue. Yeah. But
But
it's
that
like
whole
hard
thing
to
was weird
argue.
because he like had the job. He had the Jets job for a day and then
Yeah.
resigned in the press conference,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. So, well, we did get our first head coaching hire though, Frank Reich to the Panthers. I'm gonna save your grade for this for when all hires are hired, because then we can go through and grade all of them. But I kind of like the hire. I think Frank Reich got kind of done dirty at Indianapolis with years of mismanagement by GM/ownership. I'm excited for him to get a fresh start because I truly do think that he can help a team elevate to that next level.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a good hire. Although I
So-
do feel bad for Steve Wilkes.
I was just about to ask that too. Rich Bisaccia, who's gotten a couple interviewing positions elsewhere, he was the coach for the Raiders, stepped in an interim basis after Gruden was fired, led the team to the playoffs, lost in the first round to the Bengals, and they decide to go a different route. And as we've seen the outcome of that, they got worse in the season where they brought in a new coach, Devontae Adams, and other key pieces, and they got worse somehow. The Panthers won way more games than I thought a lot of people would think they would win, and that was thanks to a turnaround led by Steve Wilkes, who was on an interim basis, and now they've gone a separate direction and not retained the head coach to help them kind of guide them through this weird transition period. I don't think the Panthers are going to be for the same trajectory as the Raiders were, but that's got to be tough for Wilkes. Like, what else does he have to do to get that job?
Yeah, I guess he said somewhere publicly that he was disappointed. So I don't know where he goes from here. Sounds like maybe the Falcons, some people are saying, at defensive coordinator.
Sure, he can take the job when what's-his-face gets fired halfway through next year, too. Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he kind of made it, but yeah, sucks to be Wilkes, but good on. I still think the Panthers nailed it. If you're not going to go with Wilkes, I think Frank Reich's a good call, so good for him. Mike McCarthy's going to be calling plays for Dallas next year. Can't wait for that. Kellen Moore is gone, and apparently as of this morning, today, Monday, he's going to the Chargers to take their OC job, which is terrifying to think Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore are collaborating together. That sounds scary.
I'm gonna hold off on my praise until I see it in action.
So what, September?
No, I'm gonna wait till November because the Chargers are gonna charger, and was Kellen Moore really that impressive down the stretch?
He was impressive. I don't know if I'm excited to see him maybe unshackled from Dak.
And potentially McCarthy.
Yeah, and potentially McCarthy. And Jerry Jones.
So I think it's a good hire, but I'm holding my judgment because we do this every year with the Chargers. Oh.
Well, we had thought
they finally got that piece.
We had thought that Kellen Moore was sticking around to eventually take the head coaching job. Things happen. Mike McCarthy is retained for another year, and now Moore's gone. So now it's like if they move on from McCarthy, I don't know where they go next. Fossil? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving on from McCarthy this year. I think he's got at least another year in him there.
They're like the Chargers. They'll walk through another 11 to 13 win season and then bow out.
The NFC East refuses to have back-to-back champions, so they're going to win the NFC East next year and then lose in the first or second round.
Did you see the Joey Bosa verbal altercation with some of the Eagles fans before the game?
Yeah, he went from real quick, I'm joking with you, to, oh no, I'm really upset and butthurt by you.
Yeah, so Joey Bosa was there to support his brother Nick on the 49ers, and a bunch of Eagles fans were heckling him, and one of the Eagles fans asked him how was the fines that he just got fined from his playoff game. He says something like, "I'm rich, bitch."
He's basically like, I can afford it. I got a lot more money than you.
You're broke, bitch. So, which is
I'm
weird
sure
to
there
say
was-
that to
I'm
an
sure that
Eagles
was-
fan.
I'm sure that was alcohol induced on both sides.
Yeah, but it's weird to say it's an Eagles fan because it's not cheap to go to those playoff games. So if you're an Eagles fan that's going to the game, you're either sacrificing some life savings a little bit, or you're someone who can afford it. So
Or you've taken out a 25% interest loan.
that's the Philly way.
That's the Philly way, man.
So
How do you think
yeah,
those
Joey
banks
Bosa.
pay? How do you think the banks are going to cover all the infrastructure improvements after the videos of people like breaking through bus stops and stuff? They got to get the money from somewhere.
Something like that. Maybe you should be a politician.
No.
Mouthguard LLC will fund your campaign. We can be a
Okay.
PAC. So Joey Bosa's had a tough 2 weeks in the PR department, but yeah, time to move into the probably final segment. Well, sorry, one more thing. Stetson Bennett was arrested on public intoxication in Dallas yesterday. I think his draft stock of going from a 5th-round pick is now going to plummet to a 6th-round pick. I don't know.
Or did his draft stock raise because people know he's got that dog in him now?
Maybe. So interesting to see. I wonder if there's going to be like a dash cam video, like a la Baker Mayfield, of Stetson Bennett getting like tackled by some cops or something. But curious to see about that. And the salary cap did officially go up $16.6 million for next year. So we had speculated about how much it would go up. It's a very large increase. That's basically you can go get one non QB kind of blue chip ish player just with that alone. So we'll watch that for the offseason. All right, Packers time. Where are you at with everything with this Aaron Rodgers? Will he, won't he? Will they trade him, won't they trade him? NFL insiders are saying the Packers are leaning towards trading him. He might not get traded. He might get traded. They might want 2 first-round picks. He might go to the Jets. Joe Namath might unretire his number just for Aaron Rodgers. Where are you at with everything?
I'm so ready for training camp to be here. This is so worth having a Hall of Fame quarterback for 18 years, but it's just like, I don't want to say meaningless or exhausting because there's a lot of other things in life that are more exhausting than following football, but it's the same storyline, it's the same thing. This is the second or third straight year we've gone through it. At this point, the best thing for the franchise long term, and by long term I mean next 3 to 5 years, is probably to trade him if someone's willing to give up 2 first-round picks. And if Jordan Love works out, Jordan Love works out. If Jordan Love doesn't work out, well, at least you figured it out now instead of a year later. So ultimately, I'm kind of on the side of it's probably I want to say he's probably going to get traded because who knows what's going to happen, or if they do some other weird contract restructure. But that's probably what's best for the team. Will it be sad? Absolutely, it'll be sad because I've spent my life watching 2 quarterbacks play for the team, and for as unhinged as people think, unhinged probably isn't even the right word, for as interesting as Rodgers can be off the field, and it rubs some people the wrong way and they don't like his antics, like I'll forever be grateful for, everything he did for the Green Bay Packers, the city of Green Bay, the state of Wisconsin. Like, he's a minority, shareholder in the Bucks. He's done so much charitable work, especially in like our neck of the woods, that a lot of people don't know about because a lot of it was done behind the scenes, and he did it without looking for, the publicity. So from that standpoint, like, it'll be really sad because I've enjoyed watching him lace it up. But I mean, I guess where I stand is let's just get to August so we can like start focusing on next season. Well, let's get through the Super Bowl and then just take me to August so I could just stop hearing these storylines. And whether it's number 12 or it's number 10 wearing the jersey next year, let's ride. Here's the deal. Either way, they're not a Super Bowl contender next year because with Rodgers' contract, they're going to have to let go of some of these guys that he, quote unquote, wants to keep. And let's say you do trade him. I don't think you can realistically, with any assumption, think that Jordan Love is ready to take your team on a deep playoff run when you've only seen him throw, 24 passes in the last year.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Conceding defeat before the season's even over. Isn't that loser's mentality era?
I didn't say tank. I said they're not Super Bowl contenders. There's a difference between wanting to lose games and being realistic about a season's expectations, Matthew.
Hey, well, Jordan Love could just be the next GOAT and maybe fill the holes of the offense that we're missing this year, and
He could be.
ride that green wave into I don't even know where the Super Bowl is next year, wherever it is next year.
Vegas.
Oh, that's gonna be so fun.
You know what, Matt? He could be. But you know what? Going into the season, the Packers were supposed to have a top 5 defense this year too. So,
well, at least they kept their defensive coordinator.
I just cheer for wins. But hey, Jerry Gray's gone, the DB coach, and a lot of
Is
people are
that good
bummed
or
about
bad?
that.
Why are people making eye emojis on Twitter?
I don't know, because I think the players liked him. But here's the deal: they couldn't get their All-Pro defensive backs to look like a cohesive group for the better part of the entire season. So, is it really such a bad thing that he has moved on? I guess we'll see.
Not when you still have Joe Barry there. Don't matter, I don't think.
No.
So, okay, my take on it is I don't think they're going to get – I think the Jets make the most sense. Jets, Titans – I mean, they've already said they're not going to trade him to the NFC. So, Jets, Titans – probably not the Raiders. I just don't see it.
Here's the other thing, though. This is all contingent on him wanting to come back. He still hasn't said if he's coming back or not.
That's true.
And I know it's a lot of money, but if there's one guy that's ever played in the NFL that might say, meh, why wouldn't it be Aaron Rodgers, the most unconventional human we've ever seen play at this level for this long?
Yeah, if they do get 2 first-round picks, they will have to eat a large portion of the salary, I feel like. If they could somehow just like get I don't know the intricacies of how it all works. If they could somehow get a large portion of the salary off the books, they should trade him for like a 4th-round pick or something. I think the only way you get 2 first-round picks is if you're forced to have that contract on the books for some period of time. Because if they can get 2 first-round picks, and I'm just going to make up a number, if they can get 2 first-round picks and eat $35 million of that for 1 or 2 seasons, I would do it in a heartbeat, because those 2 first-round picks are going to be on, $5 to $8 million deals for 4 or 5 years, and if you hit one of those out of the park, that's really good for your team. We talk about how important rookie contracts are for Super Bowl contending teams and how a lot of them have nailed those draft picks and whatnot. I could see this actually long-term working out really well for the Packers if they execute it correctly.
Yeah. It's just see who they play hostage to this time around.
It'd be so funny if it was Jets too, just because it's like the exact same arc as Favre, and then that means Aaron Rodgers will be a Viking at some point.
Yep. And then he'll lose an NFC Championship game again.
Yeah. So
you've mentioned this individual's name on our show before, but Big Cat, Dan Katz from Barstool, said that if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, he will turn into the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan on the planet because he thinks it would be hilarious if Rodgers won a 2nd Super Bowl with any team but the Green Bay Packers. Do you share that sentiment as a Bears fan?
It'd be kind
of funny. That you think it would be laughable?
Yeah, it'd be funny. I don't know. I can't see myself ever cheering for him unless he's playing the Vikings or Packers, but that'd be kind of funny. And the Jets, they just rotated out of the NFC North, so they wouldn't for surely face the Packers guaranteed for another 3 years, but it'd be kind of funny. I guess one part of my anecdote that I missed is I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the answer to a team's problems. So if you're also the Packers and you can get 2 first-round picks and then potentially, I mean, you look at the film last year, potentially upgrade in quarterback with Love. Shit, why not? So I don't think the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl if Rodgers just shows up. So, yeah, I would laugh. I would laugh if he did win the Super Bowl, but I think it would kind of tear up Green Bay a little bit. Or it would start this whole new wave of anti-Mike McCarthy sentiment, probably.
Like I told you last night, should they have won a 2nd Super Bowl in the last 12 years? you could make a pretty strong argument that they had one or two very great opportunities. 2014 and 2020 probably being the best. But I will always fall on the sword that I think the Patriots have overinflated our expectations, because we'll see how the Super Bowl goes, but the other take that I've been clinging on to.
Chiefs are the Packers 2.0.
Except they've now made 3 Super Bowls, so that kind of throws a wrench in it.
Yeah, as we established in text yesterday, I thoroughly enjoy that the Packers have become the measuring stick for a team choking in the playoffs. Like, oh, did they choke as much or as little as the Packers? More? Okay, then they're the Packers.
So I do think we do need to talk about, like, they haven't choked necessarily, but it's got to suck to be a 49ers fan. In the last 12 seasons, half of them have ended either in the conference championship game or the Super Bowl.
Because, that was the 2012 season. They lost to the Ravens. They've lost to the Rams. They've lost to now the Eagles. They've lost to
the Seahawks in the conference championship game.
Seahawks. 2 division losses in conference championships. Oof. That's tough. They don't have to worry about the Cardinals, I guess.
No. Then the Chiefs lost.
Yeah, there was a point there. It was 13-6 going to half. Chiefs go 3-and-out. Bengals score a touchdown on that great throw to T. Higgins. Great catch. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go again. Like, it's happening again. But don't worry. Marquez, Valdez, Scantling's got everybody's back. Going to the Super Bowl, repping Green Bay.
Guy was always underrated. That's another sword I'll always fall on.
But he dropped the ball.
Hey, I'll tell you what. He was the one guy that showed up in the NFC Championship game, and he didn't play in the divisional round last year, and I'm sure that would have made a difference.
Yeah, so I actually don't mind MVS all that much.
No, I told you last week. I think I told you last week. I feel like we're in the era right now of, like, a lot of very likable Packers that I can root for on other teams. Between MVS, Jamal Williams, Micah Hyde, there's just a lot of guys that are easy to root for that once played at 12.
Yeah, because there's 2 elements to why I don't like the Packers as much. Is 1, Aaron Rodgers and Jair Alexander, and then 2 is some of the media personalities within the Packers beat and the Packers kind of fandom are super annoying. I've had to tell off this Ike podcast like 6 times this week for some of their. Have you seen some of their trade requests? Or they're like, hey, here's a hypothetical offer. Would you take it? And it's like Derek Stingley and the Texans' 2nd overall pick for Aaron Rodgers. It's like, who on earth would propose that?
I stopped following that account. I muted him. I couldn't take it anymore.
All right, every single tweet,
every single tweet they put out is a picture of someone, and it says, "What would you say to this man?" That's how they drive their engagement.
All right. I just want you to give me A through F letter grade here. Hypothetical trade with the Titans. Titans receive Aaron Rodgers. Packers receive Jeffrey Simmons and a 1st-round pick for this year. A through F on not necessarily like would you be happy if that trade happened, but more so the feasibility of that trade.
D.
All-pro defensive tackle, Jeffrey Simmons, and a 1st-round pick for Aaron Rodgers.
D minus. D. D minus.
Never would happen. Accept or veto. Aaron Rodgers for Derek Stingley, Texans' 2nd overall pick, Texans' 2nd-round pick, Texans' 3rd-round pick.
D minus again. I would never give any of these an F because some GMs are just clueless. So D minus.
Aaron Rodgers for Quinnen Williams, Jets' 1st-round pick, Jets' 2nd-round pick.
C minus. That one sounds more realistic just because the Jets seem more interested in making this trade than anyone else.
I don't think Quinnen Williams would be I think like Denzel Mims would be probably someone they wouldn't mind parting with. I don't think Quinnen Williams would be one of them. I'm trying to find. I think they had like one more that I was just like, are you kidding me? Maybe not. Maybe they're just craving attention and they're successfully getting it, because they also posted one yesterday. It was, who would you rather see go? And it was like Rodgers, LaFleur, both, or neither. Also important to note for the Jets that they hired Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator, and he and Rodgers apparently have a great relationship. So
yep. It's the Aaron Rodgers bait. Same thing Denver did.
Yeah, how'd that work? So next week we get to discuss Super Bowl preview, talk about what we expect from the game, what we're going to see from the game, and then what our plans are for the game. So we're really looking forward to that. And then, wow, then it's the off season. That's so wild. Pro Bowl this weekend. I don't know if you're watching. I probably won't. But I'll check on Twitter for the highlights for it. But again, we really appreciate all the support and for everybody listening. And yeah, we got one game left in the season, and then we're off to the off season. So thanks so much, and hope you guys have a good week.